Good evening and thank you for joining us. A Tucson man says a government contractor is not meeting its obligations to taxpayers.
Pima County pays a private contractor to extradite inmates to the jail from all over the country. News 4 Tucson Sam Salzuedo has tonight's investigation.
Pima County pays security transport services to extradite inmates. One inmate whose charges were later dropped says he was mistreated. The News 4 Tucson investigators wanted to verify his complaints and asked for all of the contractually obligated records on his transport. It turns out those logs were never fully recorded. Thomas Bray says his ex-wife falsely accused him of a felony. Then his order to appear in court was mailed to the wrong address. He was extradited from Texas in an STS van with other inmates.
They could have just reached over and killed me if they wanted to. They're not shackled to any bar or anything like that.
The contract between Pima County and STS states vehicles shall be clean inside and out at all times.
The floor was soaked with piss and vomit, and I asked the drivers, the contractors about it, and they said it's not their problem.
The contract also says prisoners shall be provided adequate restroom stops, no greater than 5 hours apart.
It had to have been at least 6 hours. I'm being nice at 6 hours.
Prisoners are entitled to no fewer than 2,467 calories per day, 3 meals per day, and no greater than 14 hours between meals.
It wasn't substantial, it wasn't healthy, and for guys like me with type 2 diabetes, they could have killed me.
Corrine Kendrick is a staff attorney at an organization called the Prison Law Office. She says these transport companies have very little accountability and supervision.
I'm glad to hear that Pima County actually does have these requirements in the contract that they have to stop every few hours and provide food, because unfortunately a lot of other jurisdictions across the country don't have that.
The county's contract states STS's contractor agrees to maintain a transit log of each transport under this contract and shall be delivered with the prisoner. The transit log requires the following information: prisoner name, pickup location, beginning mile, ending mile, signature of prisoner at end of trip, prisoner medication information, and prisoner activities, meals, rest stops, stretch breaks, and rest overnight. After more than 3 months of requests from the News 4 Tucson investigators, the Sheriff's Department got the records. The records did not contain meals or breaks during the day. They're not signed by the inmates.
Pima County has an obligation to the taxpayers who are paying for this to make sure that their contractor is abiding by the requirements of the contract.
The Sheriff's Department and contractor declined to interview opportunities. In an email, the president of STS stated, security transport always follows the rules for rest stops, medication, meals, and rest overnight on transports. Employees have completed travel logs most of the time, but have been advised that it is necessary on all future transports. We've told Pima County that we have not adhered as closely as we agreed to on the transit logs. We're correcting that, and although we were performing the practices, did not notate as agreed. PCSD stated in an email, the Pima County Sheriff's Department maintains a policy where prisoners arrestees shall be kept securely, treated firmly but humanely, and not subjected to unnecessary restraint or use of force. Further, department members shall conduct themselves professionally in all transactions with persons who are in the custody of any criminal justice agency. Should the Sheriff's Department be made aware of malfeasance in regard to the treatment and welfare of inmates being transported by an independent contractor, we, along with the assistance of Pima County Procurement, will examine the services provided.
They're making money. That's all they care about. Each inmate is a dollar sign to them, and that's all it will ever be.
Bray and the company disagree about his treatment. But STS doesn't have the records it's contractually obligated to have to prove he was treated properly. The most recent contract was signed in 2016 with opportunities to renew the contract every year for 4 years. If you have a story you'd like us to investigate, email investigators@KVOA.com or call 955-4444. Investigating for you, Sam Salzuedo, News 4 Tucson.
Pima County pays security transport services to extradite prisoners back to Tucson.
News 4 Tucson investigators just spoke to 2 prisoners who have been in a security transport services van. They say escaping would not have been very difficult. News 4 Tucson Sam Salzuedo has that investigation.
Well, the Pima County Sheriff's Department says it saves tax dollars. Instead of paying deputies to extradite suspects, the county hires a contractor. For months, we've been investigating that contractor. Last week, we reported they're violating their contract through bad record keeping. This week we found out 2 murder suspects heading to Tucson escaped from the company.
You got handcuffs with about this much mobility, about, I want to say, 8 inches of chain, and then your feet, you have roughly about 18 inches so you can shuffle along.
I had one that I could stretch out and have my hands up by my head while my feet were stretched out.
Thomas Bray says he was falsely accused of a felony by his ex-wife. His charges were dismissed, but not before STS extradited him from Texas.
The security there was very minimal.
Josh does not want his full identity revealed, but he did tell us that STS extradited him from Florida on theft charges.
It was lax. I mean, the security was lax.
Last week, the News 4 Tucson investigators reported STS was violating its contract by keeping incomplete transport records. On Monday, in northern Arizona, homicide suspects Blaine and Susan Barksdale were in an STS van and escaped. They're suspected of killing Tucsonan Frank Bly and setting his house on fire.
Pima County should have gone out there. You got a murderer, like, set fire to the dude's house, like, you haven't even found the body yet. Go find this guy, go get him. Don't hire a company. 2 people together, that's just a terrible idea.
The sheriff's department says the last time its employees extradited somebody, it cost almost $2,500. STS only charges a $200 pickup fee and $1.16 per mile. The News 4 Tucson investigators filed a public records request for extradition records in 2018. The most expensive transport was from Massachusetts for more than $3,100. The cheapest was from Texas for about $347. STS is based in Topeka, Kansas, and we've learned this is not their first escape. Our NBC affiliate in Topeka, KSNT, says in 2011, a prisoner in transport stole an STS vehicle while the driver was in a convenience store. And in 2006, 2 children facing juvenile charges overpowered a driver and stole a van.
The 4 guards of that company that I saw, if someone really wanted to, they could get away.
They're incredibly out of shape. So they were not catching anyone if they have tried.
The sheriff's department stated in an email, our understanding is that the extradition orders did not have any specific instructions regarding the transfer of these 2 prisoners. Ultimately, the decision lies with the company when there are no specific instructions within the orders. We'll review this incident with STS. On Wednesday, the county announced it's suspending its use of STS while the escape is being investigated. STS has not responded to requests for comment since the escape, including our request today, asking for a response regarding the county suspending their services. The contract is not exclusive, and the county is allowed to hire a different vendor. If you have a story you'd like us to investigate, email investigators@KVOA.com or call 955-4444. Investigating for you, Sam Salzwadel, News 4 Tucson.